Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard their point. Now, hear the counterpoint on Libertarian Counterpoint podcasts.
Welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint podcast. We're coming at you on November 6th, just a few short days after this sort of endless election we've had this year in the country. 2020 has been a very strange year. But before we get into any of that, let's introduce the panel. Up in my left-hand corner, we have Leon the Word Brathwaite, last word in liberty. He is a retired engineer from the state of California. And up in our right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. And my name's Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. And, well, the election is sort of over. It happened on the third. We did a live stream here on that day. I'm not quite sure if that's available to watch, but it was... It is available. I've watched a part of it. Yeah, I felt like this was kind of a little bit of the reverse of what we saw in the 2016, where we were sitting here. It looked like it was going one way, and by the end of the night, it seemed to be going another way. And but it is an interesting election, to say the least, and so many variables. But at the moment, it does look like Trump is likely to lose in the long counting here. But, there's a lot of challenges out there, and I'm going to open it up to you guys. Do you guys have any observations or stuff you want to jump in on here?
I think the election's over when the annoying candidate signs come down off the fences and at the corners, intersections. That's when it's over. When all that stuff comes down, then we can say the election is over. But anyway, it just looks like it's going Biden's way. I don't know what else to say. I'm perplexed at why Arizona is so bluish instead of is that historically? I thought they were.
No, it's not. Yeah. No, it's not. It's historically red.
Okay, and is it? But it went to Biden. Is that correct?
It did. Well, Trump. Fox News on election night. Fox News called it for Biden. Trump have been challenging it, and some votes coming in from Maricopa County that seem to supporting Trump more, but I don't think he's going to make up the difference.
Okay. So how did that happen in Arizona? What do you think, Leon?
Arizona been trending blue for a little while. I mean, in 2018, we had McSally, who is the Republican, and Sinema, who is the Democrat, running for the Senate position, and Sinema beat McSally by a few thousand votes or something like that. But the trend was there for movement in the blue direction, and I think Biden sneak one out. I think I don't see anything that sounds suspicious in that outcome. I mean, there are still some votes out that may narrow the gap that presently exists, but I don't think it'll be enough to close the gap for Trump.
A friend of mine that lives in Arizona blamed it on those pesky Californians moving over to Arizona and bringing their liberal bias with them. Now, I've never fathomed how that could possibly be. You're going to leave your Democrat utopia of California, and you're going to go and get burned to a crisp, a little crispy Democrat critter in Arizona. And when you get there, you're going to try to make Arizona more like California. I just have never understood how that theory can work out. I would think the people that were ready to move out of California because they don't like how liberal it is would not be voting for liberals. I can't understand it. But other people think think that notion is correct.
Tim, that's a very good point you're raising. but I think I told this story before. About 2 years ago, 3 years ago, in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article about people moving, and I believe the state was Utah. Californians moving to Utah. Some of the Utah residents, people who have been there historically or long term, they were complaining that some of these California people were bringing their California values to Utah. And so this phenomenon that your friend is describing, I wouldn't doubt it. Seriously, I wouldn't doubt it because I read about it previously.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, keep in mind too is as far as that goes, you get a lot of people too who are sort of on the left. They sort of live a lot of their career, their life here, and then they suddenly realize how much cheaper it is to live in other places.
Exactly.
All just leaving just because they're sick of the left politics. They see some advantages to going somewhere else, and then they just go. Like Gene Simmons, I heard, just left Los Angeles. He's going to be moving to Gene Simmons, the lead singer of Kiss, and he's moving to Washington State. So a lot of people are just finding it cheaper, and they see some benefits in quality of life, and they don't quite understand that maybe it's these policies in California that cause some of that disparity.
Quite frankly, just as you guys are speaking, I just remembered a little anecdotal point. In maybe in the last 10 years prior to my retirement from the California Energy Commission, I think I knew probably about 10, maybe 15 people who retired and left the state. And I think only one of them I will classify as a conservative, quite frankly.
Wow. Okay.
This is just anecdotal, so I don't have no science behind it.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you about people that I knew who retired and left the state. Some went to Nevada. Quite a few went to Nevada, actually. A few went to Oregon. One I know went up into Washington, and I think there might have been a couple who went to Utah also. But Montana, I think. Montana. Maybe it was Montana. But the whole point is, though, there's only one out of that group of people that I know that I would classify as a conservative.
Wow, especially Montana.
Yeah.
Wonder how that worked out. But
okay. I'm not in touch with these people, so I really don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like we are getting a little bit far afield of the actual, some of the causes.
Election, yes.
One of the things that I can't help but notice is that, that this could also be a lot of impacts from our response to COVID. I mean, if you think about it, we had a massive change in the structure of elections because of the government's response to COVID, in which case they were trying to make it much easier for people to vote, by distance, essentially. And a lot of this was the first time for a lot of different places. So, there's not a lot of necessarily tried and true structure in a lot of places where, there could be some issues there. But and that may play out in this whole challenge. But one of the thoughts I always had too is that people who tend to want to vote for government services and free stuff, it seems to me that if the cost is higher to casting that vote, if you have to go through more hurdles, you may be less likely to bother casting the vote. Whereas if you've got to go through actually showing up on election day and not having somebody show up at your door to collect your votes for you and everything else, you may.
Ballot harvesting, yes.
Yeah, it may make it, so easy that it's like, well, what do you got to lose? You're voting for stuff, and somebody is doing all the legwork for you and everything else. It's sort of like, I don't know.
It sounds to me like you're saying that liberal voters are lazy voters.
lazy, low information voters.
Yeah.
Let me tell you guys a story here, okay, about these mail-in ballots. Right now, my wife and I voted on Monday, okay, which was the day before the election. Right now, as I stand here speaking to you, we have 2 live ballots in our home right now. Okay, live ballots, things that I could have filled out and turned in, but we're not going to do that, obviously. Somehow or the other, there was a mix-up because we moved and everything, that kind of stuff. We got ballots in Elk Grove. We brought them down with us, and in the process, we did re-register. We got ballots here also. So we still have the 2 Elgro ballots here. Okay, we're not going to use them, obviously, or we can't use them now anyway. But the point is, though, I just wonder how much people, through mix-up like that they have live ballots in the which were probably used. This whole process of mail-in ballots without secure protocols to ensure the integrity of the election is a real problem. And I think, even though Trump have not presented any evidence of mass fraud or anything like that, I think there are some real issues out there, because we have spoken about these mail-in ballots previously, and there are real potential problems in terms of the integrity of our election and the integrity of our votes. But I don't know if there's anything out there that could change the outcome that looks inevitable. But there are some real problems. I heard in Nevada, I mean, there were some reports about this, about out-of-state people voting. I heard about dead people voting. I mean, there are some real live issues here that should be investigated and possibly litigated. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it will change the outcome, but it's just so suspicious that you've seen all of these things going on in states and in cities controlled by the Democrats. Team Blue, using Jason vernacular. Look at what's going on in Philadelphia right now. There was a whole big issue whether, I think they allow the Republican poll watchers to be inside the room, but they're like 25 feet away. So what is the point of having them in there if they can't even see, well, which ballots are being considered legal and which are not, which are being valid and which are not? The same thing was going on in Milwaukee, same thing going on in Detroit. All over, you've seen all of these issues. In Atlanta, where now Biden has taken over the lead in Georgia, which is not predominantly a red state. But he now has the lead. It's a razor-thin lead, but he has the lead. But most of the votes that led him to take over came from Atlanta, which is predominantly Democrat. And, of course, anything there is going to benefit the Democrats. So there's a real problem with these votes that need to be investigated. I am not saying I have any evidence of fraud, but boy, a lot of these things look real suspicious. They really do.
Well, that's a good point, because it brings back memories of back in the old days, prior to any kind of mail-in voting at all. You had one ballot and you had to pick it up from the polling place, and you had to get it. You had to sign your name. Your name had to be on the list of eligible voters, and it was just, your name was not on 2 lists or 3. It was on one list. That was it. And that was at your polling place. You were assigned. It was sometimes right across the street.
Right.
But so there was, you got a ballot at that point. So that's a safer, in my opinion, way to do it. And so with mail-in ballots, like you say, you could have moved, and we just lost Leon. Oh, there he is. You could have moved. You could have had a deceased family member in the same house that they got their ballots, and now you've got your ballot and the ballot from when you moved and the ballot from your deceased mother or father. Yeah. And now you've got 3 ballots. So now they're all eligible ballots. So you can just fill them out and throw them in, because there's no name on the ballot, correct?
Exactly. Exactly.
Comes from. Yeah. So to me, the security issue of voting lies in how you get the ballots. And if they're going to find out that there's more people that voted than are eligible, or however they find this out, I don't know. Not that they really. I kind of wonder their motivation if their guy wins. If most of these government agencies are, pro-Democrat. So how are they motivated to go look into? Wow, there's I think there's more votes for Biden than there really should be, and there's the same amount for Trump that maybe should be. I don't know. It is just ripe for fraud.
Of course it is. Of course it is. And if you look at the I mean, I know there's this issue of people do split their vote. Okay, at the presidential level, they vote one way, and at the House of Representatives and at the senatorial level, they vote a different way. That ballot splitting is a phenomenon that is well known. But look at what is happening in the House. It was projected that the Democrats were going to hold control of the House and they were going to expand their majority. Look at what is happening. The Republicans have gained seats. I think they're +6 or +7 right now. And they're about, I think, 25 races still outstanding, and they are leading in about 10 of them. Look at the Senate. The Democrats had about 6 seats that they think they were going to take over. They have been able to flip 2. The Republicans flip 1. So right now, the Democrats are only +1. So right there, you're seeing there was something going on that suggests some sort of mini, I wouldn't call it a red wave, but some sort of mini thing going on in favor of the Republicans.
Yeah,
but
so
yet that did not benefit Donald Trump. It was which I just don't understand, even though I would accept the fact that there's some kind of ballot splitting that could go on. But it just seems so odd how this thing all turning out. It really seems odd.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I can't help but think about in all this is that, is when you look at, the actual results of this election, regardless of whether, I mean, it's funny, I think of, we're all losers in the sense that one of these guys won. That's kind of the way I feel, as far as these two presidential guys. There certainly could have been better candidates, I would think. And,
but I prefer
JoJo didn't do better than 1%, so that's also kind of disappointing. But
okay, but I agree with Leon. I'd go for the guy that doesn't have dementia yet. Instead of the guy, usually when you elect a president, they get dementia after they've become president, not before. But in Joe Biden's
not
case,
before.
Right, but you elect him and he's already got dementia. It's seriously a flawed situation there. How can that happen?
I think, what I was going to say, that I think that maybe part of the problem is that Donald Trump was, potentially such a bad candidate that's how the Republicans could do well, and maybe he could not do well. You look at Hillary last time was such a terrible candidate running against Trump, and Trump had a lot of faults too, but his big thing was he wasn't Hillary. Right now, you look at the way this election was shaping up, and it's almost like every time Trump has an opportunity, something he winds up saying something that winds up putting him in the hole that almost no other politician would ever fall into. A lot of these, even just look at the way this fraud thing potentially is working out. So we're all noting here there's little cases of potential fraud here and there, but we're not coming out and saying, oh, Donald Trump won and the other side just stole the election. That's exactly what Donald Trump is saying. And, when you come out and you start, making statements like that, you really put a lot of people off, and that's sort of his whole presidency has been, maybe he might be on the right side of something, but the stuff he says winds up just, I guess, inflaming.
Yeah, I think he really hurt himself in the debates when he kept interrupting. He should have just let Joe do Joe and just he should have made sure Joe talked as much as possible. Maybe even had a pause, and he could have come on and said, well, Joe, do you have anything else to say about that? I mean, that was the big mistake, I think. And
that's a valid point.
Yeah.
Okay, because
Leon, you've got bad reception here.
Something is happening here. I don't know. I'm looking at my thing. I'm just going in and out.
Leon, our tech overlords are trying to silence you before you can get
the Obviously.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's my mind. I've got to do something. I have a dirty mind. I'm just so sorry. I can't. They better cut all this out. I'm just sorry.
I think he was.
Okay.
I think Tim might have been going to the Cuban, but I don't think anybody here would go there. So. I'm sticking with the tech overlord story.
Oh my goodness.
It's funny because I was on election night and I was having the same problems too, which is very unusual,
Yeah.
But no, what I was going to say about this
internet
thing,
problems, right?
Yeah, I am having internet problems. There's no doubt about that. But what I was going to say is that the Donald Trump in that first debate, if the Donald Trump that showed up at the second debate was Donald Trump that showed up at the first debate, he certainly would have helped himself a lot more. And it is true. It is very true. This man have many flaws in terms of how he communicates stuff. I mean, he have a lot of issues that he's on the right side of those issues, but the way he comes across too often is abrasive and songs bullying and songs, every bad word you could think about that a leader should be using in terms of communicating his thoughts and his ideas. So I mean that hurts him. I think suburban women was one of the big sector of the population that kind of drifted away from him, but he got other sectors to drift towards him. But I think suburban women really hurt him in that.
Yeah. Oh, we lost Leon again.
Yeah, he's cutting in and out.
Oh, sorry, Leon, you still going there? Okay, looks like you're frozen.
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, let me just say too, before we get to the end of the program, there were a few other interesting trends, though. I mean, there was some, I think some good news things there. I mean, here in California, I mean, Proposition 16 appears to have gone down, and there was a few other interesting propositions that went down. Fortunately, it looks like the Senate is going to hold Republican, which, at least for libertarians, if you have that, gridlock, it keeps government from doing a lot of terrible things.
Yeah, I think so too. Yes.
So hopefully that holds. But
people would complain because Congress went on these long vacations and hardly ever showed up for work. I was like, what's wrong with that? They just don't do anything then. That's awesome.
And if we just stop paying them.
Yeah, exactly. But well, I'd rather pay them to stay home and shut up than come to work and, become despots again, predate upon the public with their tyrannies, large and small.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing that, it really is going to be interesting to see how this stuff plays out over the next week. And I'm hoping next week we can do, assuming that the election keeps trending toward Biden and maybe they've announced by then, I think it'd be really interesting to have a show where we just talk about sort of the effect Donald Trump has had on the country, or that what the country's gone through over the period that because Trump certainly is a very interesting president and certainly is going to be noteworthy in history. And I really think, there's some interesting things to look at, for how things have changed or evolved while he's been president, for better and worse.
Well, I think if the trend keeps on going the way it is, I think Biden is going to obviously assume the presidency. But I think Donald Trump is still going to go down in history as probably one of the more consequential presidents of the modern times. I mean, love him or hate him, he did accomplish quite a few things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Time for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. That's where we're reaching near the end of the show here, and this time, and this is really harkens back to the whole fallout of this election. But the Atlantic published a story, just after the election, and it says a large portion of the electorate chose the sociopath. And I think, and that's pretty much it. That somebody would, from one side, thinks that everybody on the other side is voting for a sociopath, and it really kind of shows I don't know, the echo chamber, the kind of narrow-minded, egocentric view that a lot of us are sort of having, that everybody, if they don't do it the way we do it, then, you're just terrible. You're just a sociopath or something. So I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that?
Well, the first thought that came to my mind was, which one are they talking about?
There you go.
but no, seriously, I mean, that's just my libertarian mind. But seriously, while Leon is frozen in time, and now he's coming back, hopefully.
Sorry.
That was the first question. But yeah, I mean, if it's somebody referring to Donald Trump, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's okay that Obama sent out in 1 year 26,000 bombs and bombed 7 different nations, none of which had a congressional or a constitutionally based war declared against them.
Jim, it's okay because he was a Nobel Peace Prize winner. So that's
exactly.
Yes, remember that. Yeah, please remember that. Yes.
Yeah. So that was okay. That's not being sociopathic. He killed American citizens on foreign soil, including a son of one of them who was innocent, like 16. What did he do? And without a trial or anything, he targeted them specifically to be hit. So, yeah, I mean, is that sociopathic? To me, it is. So, and I'm sure Trump has targeted people too, and had people killed with drone bombs. And he just didn't do I have a drone speech like Obama did. So okay. So who's, who's the sociopath here? It's just their guy. Okay. Their guy is pure as the wind-driven snow, and everybody else is Satan personified. And Leon, what do you think?
He's going to take us to utopia, man. That's what's going to happen here. Just listen to the way they described us, the people on the right, as spoiled and racially resentful, aggrieved, willing to die instead of a mid-era. We are angry. That's what they think about people on the right, particularly Trump supporters. And these people are sick. Honestly, they are really, really sick. And this is what's showing up in their words and their deeds. And maybe Trump will lose this election, but I have real suspicions about how Biden becomes president. There's no evidence here that I have, but there's some real suspicions that these people will do anything to get Donald Trump out of the White House, and I think they probably have been successful.
Yep. Well, I think that about says it all, and we've reached the end of the time for the show. Not sure if there's enough to stick around for an overtime, but as far as the regular show goes, thank you for joining us for Libertarian Counterpoint Podcast. You can find more of our shows at libertariancounterpoint.com or Libertarian Counterpoint on Facebook. Thanks again, and we hope to see you next week.